Good afternoon, gentlemen. John and Joe, thank you so much for joining. I mentioned at the beginning, the relationship with Stratodesk and iQor. But John and Joe, not only do I want you to introduce yourselves and your roles for iQor, but John, do you mind giving us a little bit of an overview, a synopsis for those of our friends that are listening out there and that are interested in iQor? Who is iQor and what do you do?
Sure. First of all, Happy New Year's, Happy Holidays. iQor is a BPO, business processing outsource company. It's a fancy way to say that we do some call centers. We have about 30,000 agents globally. A large population of those agents are in Philippines. We also have agents located throughout the United States, as well as some back-end technical staff in India. We service about 120 or so clients for customer service related call center work for the most part. What we'll do is we'll take the calls on their behalf and we'll actually address whatever they need. So if you are a telecom, a mobile phone provider, maybe one or two of our industrial accounts, if you call into their call centers, you're more than likely talking to one of our agents globally in the world. And in order to do that, we actually leverage a virtualization platform to actually give the desktop out. So we have the ability to do any desktop to any agent anywhere in the world. So if they're located in the US, in India, and or the Philippines, they can actually sign in and get their desktop, and we do that on top of your platform, the Stratodesk platform for the thin clients. While we keep all the desktops running in our data centers, which are located in the United States in Atlanta and Parsippany. So we keep all the intellectual property and the data secured in the United States, yet we allow the agents to actually work wherever they may need to.
And I'm really glad that you were able to add that color because iQor is a significantly sized corporation, but it's just one of those names that, we just don't hear around the breakfast table every day, right? So I'm really glad that you were able to kind of specify that. I know it's very intimate for us. We know you very, very well. But thank you for adding that bit of color. And John, since you did that so eloquently, would you mind telling us your role? And then Joe, I'm going to ask you for your role as well after John.
Absolutely. So within iQor, Senior Vice President for the platform side of the house. What does the platform side of the house means? It's within the data center, basically the servers, the storage, all the compute actually falls into my group, as well as the desktops, the virtual desktops. So we actually power those up under, like I said, under VMware, and we actually leverage a server farm to actually provide anywhere in the neighborhood of about 25 to 35,000 desktops that we create and destroy on any given day. So I have about a team of 40 or so folks that actually do that. We run a very agile team at iQor, so that the environment can actually be managed in a very decentralized fashion. We have staff in Philippines, we have staff in India, and we have staff throughout the United States, very similar to the way we have our agents. Joe, how about a couple of words from you?
Just to add onto that, Joe Soltis, Senior Manager of the Platforms Group at iQor. I manage the VDI operations team, the application delivery team, and the endpoint management team. So all the systems that essentially connect an agent to a desktop would fall under that realm.
Emmanuel, a few words about your role and also a little bit of background about Stratodesk for those who just might be tuning in and learning about Stratodesk for the first time.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Hernan. And thank you, gentlemen, for being on here with us. This is really exciting. It's a very exciting use case. I'm sure we will talk more about that. But to answer your question, Hernan, so yes, as you already said, I am the founder and CEO of Stratodesk. I'm a software engineer by profession. I've turned into becoming a founder, starting Stratodesk now actually a decade ago. We started Stratodesk in 2010 here in the United States. It has been an incredible journey being the leader in endpoint computing, in thin endpoint computing, VDI client. There are so many terms out there. Many of you might remember when it was called server-based computing, then VDI, thin client computing. The key point about Stratodesk is that we have always been software only. So we never made thin clients. We're still the only true software-only enterprise client platform, and we are platform independent. So we are not tied to a specific hardware, be it say x86 or ARM. We support various types of hardware with our endpoint software.
So John, as we were getting together and scheduling this, I began to think, like, how long ago was it that we started this relationship? We've actually known each other, and I mean, do you remember that far back how we got started?
Oh, sure. I'm going to say it was about 4 years ago. We started the relationship. It took, once we put into the R&D within iQor, testing on our 2 different platforms, it took about 6 to 9 months before we got to the point of actually putting it into production. But yeah, we go back about 4 years. One of the things that did attract iQor to Stratodesk was, and Emmanuel touched on it just before, was the software play. Basically, it's not a hardware solution. A lot of the solutions that we were looking at typically come with hardware coupled with their management package. We were looking to reprovision some existing hardware and or get a hardware agnostic so that we can actually bring a different solution to the table, a different piece of equipment to the table, and your solution was an excellent fit. We evaluated about 2 or 3 other ones. The management capabilities, the flexibility that we had from a configuration and or repurposing use was ideal for what we were looking to do.
And Joe, is there anything that, as you stepped into using the Stratodesk technology at iQor, were there any attributes or any kind of features, functionality that kind of stood out to you that helped propel that use of Stratodesk within iQor?
The solution at iQor originally started as a small user base who were working at home. This was to build in resiliency to iQor's service model and allowed us to leverage the cloud controller technology to essentially reach any device at any place in the world. We've been able to essentially scale what was just a purpose-built resiliency model to something that is now essentially the foundation of what we're doing during this pandemic and the subsequent response. So to hopefully answer your question, Hernan, it's been interesting to see going from, let's say, maybe 750 active work at home devices utilizing NoTouch to well over 20,000, right, within the past year. So solution scalable, the controller is scalable, and our deployment model is, I would say, versatile because of the partnership we have with you guys.
When we went into our pandemic back in the March timeframe, with the fact that we actually had a very small work at home configuration, Stratodesk was actually a key to us turning around and taking the typical user population in the Philippines and turning them into almost exclusively work from home. So we had 0 footprint in the Philippines from work at home, and then within about 1 week, between 1 and 2 weeks, we were able to repurpose these devices and then actually turn them into all work at home clients using the Stratodesk platform. So that enabled us to really transform the business into a pure work at home solution.
Right, because John, if I remember correctly, when that happened, it was pretty major and quick. Like all of a sudden, the government in the Philippines said, we got to shut down all the factories. We're shutting down business. Everyone's got to be at home, and it was one of those, oh my goodness, kind of moments to hurry up and make that move happen with hardly any time.
It sounds like just kind of making up times, but we got a call at 6:30 in the morning on I think it was March 16th, and we were given until midnight local time, that being the Philippines. That was effectively like 6 hours later. 6 hours later. Granted, the Philippines kept resetting the clock a bit, but when we first stepped into it on that Monday, we were given hours to respond and hours to actually prepare the folks to get out of the offices. It took us about a better part of a week to get the logistics down. But I'd say by about Thursday afternoon, we had the configurations on the devices ready to go, and it was a matter of just putting equipment into folks' hands. We weren't worried about actually the configuration of the solution working.
This is something we should really shine a light on. I mean, obviously, you guys know it, or for you, it feels normal. But in generally speaking, in endpoint computing, I mean, consider how Windows updates, how most systems do it. They just pop up a dialog box and say, I need to update. This is in your environment. Things like that would be totally unacceptable. It has to work. It just has to work all the time.
We in the past, we did have some challenge points around updating the thin clients themselves. It was based off the Microsoft Windows 7 platform. So when we applied the updates, getting that device to actually unlock, make it writable, do the update, reapply the right filters, and then turn it back on. It was, it was a process that took sometimes, maybe 60 to 90 minutes per device. With the Stratodesk now, we're able to actually update the configurations with a couple of reboots. Basically, we'll reboot it, it'll pull down a brand new image, it'll apply the Delta updates, and then it'll go back into service. So the ability to actually, the capabilities to update the device are significantly enhanced, not just from the configuration, but also from the continuous patching that we do.
Stratodesk now offers a cloud environment for NoTouch Center for the centralized management. How were you able to utilize NoTouch Center in the cloud for this transition, and not just a transition, but beyond? If you wouldn't mind explaining a little bit about that.
We initially had a hybrid deployment of NoTouch in our environment, which essentially was an on-prem controller and a cloud controller. The cloud controller was able to service devices that were outside of our network, and the internal controller was servicing the devices that were in office. So leveraging the cloud at that time essentially allowed us the flexibility to move these devices externally very quickly. Had we not had that cloud instance in place, this process would have been a lot more difficult. So we leveraged the controller that was hosted by Stratodesk to essentially scale our operation and move devices from our internal controller to that cloud instance. What that allowed us to do was not only free ourselves from performance dependencies of the controller itself on-prem, using the Amazon Web Services model that you guys are subscribed to. We could scale our controller as we added 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 devices to a controller. It was essentially a flip of a switch to give us more processing power, a better ability to query databases and get information that we needed to be more agile with our deployment. So to sum it up, that hybrid model essentially evolved into a situation where we now manage both from the same platform. We can manage internal and external devices on the same controller.
What we can do with regards to the cloud, one of the conversation points that we had, or decision points that we wanted to bring into account was, once we put into the cloud, we had to actually move between your management platforms, the on-prem management platform, and then into a cloud-based platform. And it was a config change. What we tried to do with our hybrid model is we've kind of exposed it through our firewalls, but we actually have the same fully qualified host name that's responding. So we've now taken a device that can go on-prem, off-prem, the US, India, Philippines. This device will be reachable by our management platform, the Stratodesk management platform, wherever we put it, within the four walls of our office and or in a home user space. So one of the design decisions was not so much to get away from the cloud, but to turn around and make this hybrid model something that we've exposed the internal to our cloud users as well. So that as the device gets picked up and leaves, we don't have to worry about a registration process. It's already registered on the system and it'll continue to be managed. We do the management from our internally hosted environment, but it is actually exposed to the internet.
So John, another thing that I did want to ask in regards to our technology partners and what we have available to our clients is you all are an unlikely candidate for using Imprivata. You know, Imprivata is something that's actually known as a particularly healthcare solution. And you all are a heavy user of Imprivata. Would you mind, sharing a little bit about how your relationship and use of Imprivata has worked in conjunction with Stratodesk?
Well, Imprivata was one of the, when we were building the solution nearly 8-9 years ago, Imprivata was one of the only vendors that was out there really doing something on the biometric level. And when I say biometric, really fingerprint. We had some digital persona, and then we moved it over to pure Imprivata to actually bring to bear additional securities. So we didn't necessarily want the agents worrying about passwords. What we wanted to do is be able to get into the system and actually go use it. So for all intents, password is going to be a very secure mechanism, wording secure locations. They're going to use their fingerprint to engage the system. Imprivata was the solution. So when we went down the route of a new thin client OS, really no touch, it had to support the Imprivata solutions. And it was actually great that you already did have that partnership and you've been able to execute and give the configurations without any issues. And the management of that has actually been exceptional. So yeah, you are correct in the fact that Imprivata is like healthcare based. They've kind of matured and went down the path of actually furthering the healthcare roles. We haven't traditionally used it in a mechanism which I guess the majority of the Imprivata users are doing it. However, it does its job for us. It does a very good job.
And that's one thing I really wanted to kind of point out because that is a very unique use.
And one of the other integration points that you do have that I don't think you touched on was the Cisco AnyConnect. All these devices had to get into our network in some manner, and basically our manner to do that was really twofold. The first one was Cisco AnyConnect, and we did a certificate-based solution, and you were key to getting that configuration out there with this with the certificate. The second one was UAG, or VMware's Unified Access Gateway, and we're able to do that with our configuration controls around the desktop. So we do have the ability to flip folks from a VPN-based solution over to the Unified Access Gateway. But Cisco's AnyConnect on the desktop itself was an excellent help to us as well.
Excellent. Thanks for adding that, John. I really do appreciate that. That is something, you're right, that's something that I missed. But again, just plays into the fact of the different technologies that are easily adaptable within the solution that are just there at a fingertip to be able to utilize. Stratodesk originally started as a repurposing, Emmanuel mentioned software only. We're not tied to any particular hardware. iQor used Stratodesk predominantly or holistically as a repurposing solution for existing hardware in your environment. Can you share any kind of savings, any kind of advantages that helped iQor by using the software only solution?
Sure. It was a repurposing platform. So we had some older devices, we leveraged HP, their thin client devices. And when we purchased them, they mirror up the make and the model with a certain OS. We did run into some challenge points on Windows XP and the end of life timeframes around the XP operating system going away. The hardware was great. We had plenty of horsepower within the hardware. The capabilities, meaning USB support for headphones or keyboards or mouse, that was actually all there. The only thing we had was a compliance issue with regards to the end-of-life operating system. We couldn't continue to use that, otherwise we'd fall outside of the customer's requirements, that we maintain a fully supported platform across the board, be that the virtual desktop and or the thin client. With Stratodesk, we were able to turn around and take that device, which still had some life in it, put an operating system, your operating system on top of that. Again, we're back into compliance. We have a fully supported solution. So we were able to extend the life cycle of those devices by about 2 to 3 years. We're approaching year 4. Ideally, at that point in time, these things have now been operating in the environment for 7 or 8 years. We're going to be replacing them at some point in time, but the Stratodesk solution will actually continue to survive because anything new is coming in with the Stratodesk OS on top of it.
So John and Joe, and Emmanuel, I'll have you finish up but this question is going to go to all of you. What's the future for iQor, and Emmanuel afterwards, what's the future for Stratodesk? Is there anything, John Joe, that you're willing to share about where your vision is, where you're going, and where you would like Stratodesk to partner with you as we move ahead?
Interesting question. You know, in this industry, we're ever evolving. So like with the work at home model, we now have different compliance situations. So as we move folks out of a secure location into their homes, home offices, globally, one of the initial things that actually hits us is compliance, it's security. And, you know, kind of getting Stratodesk to continue to work with the vendors, either by doing a hardware solution, meaning we incorporate some additional third-party software integrations like we've already done with Improvad and Cisco, and we bring in potentially some, you know, interactions with cameras or interactions with noise cancellation. So looking to actually take that and expand or extend upon the Strato platform is actually something that's going to be key to us. The flexibility is already there. The hardened desktop is already there. The life cycle is already there. Now it's, you know, what does 2021 bring for us? Because we just came through a pandemic, and what are the new challenges? And so far, you know, the platform has been pretty flexible that we can extend it where needed. And if we can't, we'll work hand in hand with you as a partner to actually get those integration points put into the system.
What are some future thoughts and aspirations for Stratodesk as we move forward? And as John so said, you know, 2021, who knows what could bring this year? But what is Stratodesk's vision for the future?
So we actually talked about a few very, very interesting strategic things there, where this use case is a perfect example for. So one thing is, when you think about this idea of PC repurposing, like when I said, yeah, the idea of Stratodesk was to be software only, we have to keep in mind this is not a one-time thing. It is not about recycling or refreshing an old PC. It's really a strategic long-term decision. I mean, as a customer, you can use it that way. You can use it for a one-time refresh. You can use it forever. You can get as many new models of hardware for a specific desktop, for one specific worker as you want. You can refresh the hardware every 3 years and still use the same NoTouch, or you can let the same piece of hardware run for 10 years or 20 years, or whatever, and still run NoTouch. Once you like the platform, you like the look and feel, you like the management, you like its hardware independence, make use of the hardware independence. Yeah, get a new piece of hardware that supports whatever, 4K monitors, 8K monitors, you know, 5 screens, 10 screens, whatever. So there are no limits there. So it's not just a one-time refresh. And the second thing is, we talked about cloud, and I think this will be becoming more and more important as well in 2021. So for us, cloud is exactly, or was envisioned exactly like you were using it, flexible, up and down. I have a business problem to solve, whatever it is, cloud can help you. What that means is, what I'm saying between the lines is, we are not forcing anyone to move to cloud. It's not like, you know, we see this with many consumer products. They are converted to subscription only. You sometimes, some people have, myself included, have a little bit of a bad feeling about it. I don't even know how many subscriptions I have today, professionally and at home. So it's probably getting overboard. We don't force anyone to go 100% cloud. It is something that adds in to your installed solution for capturing specific business cases where you need that ultimate flexibility, but it's by far not something that's being forced on you. What I think going forward, with everything we have in store, I think the outlook is extremely bright. I mean, for VDI as a whole, for our whole ecosystem, it's not a niche any longer. VDI is mainstream. There is no doubt about that. Cloud is becoming mainstream, being forced or not forced, doesn't matter. It's becoming more mainstream. We see many interesting developments, new vendors getting into the field. The whole ecosystem is broadening, existing vendors taking an interest, security, for example. So this is a big push for us. Security, that we say we want to integrate with more and more security vendors, like all the VPNs. You know, there are so many beautiful solutions out there. We named one that we work with, but certainly there are more and more new vendors coming up. We are working with them. Thinking about 2021 specifically as the year after the pandemic, I bet many people are now under immense pressure to do something about their PCs in the workplaces, because everyone was scrambling to enable work from home. People didn't really think much about their offices. They might not even have been able to see their offices, right? We were prohibited. So many countries are still under lockdown orders. People, even if they wanted, they could not go to their offices. They are locked. So what happens to all these machines over there? How will they be refreshed as they are aging for people who get back to their offices, hopefully when this whole pandemic is over? So I think there are lots of challenges, but we at Stratodesk, we are set up extremely well for this. And VDI in general, our niche, our ecosystem with all our partners, competitors, whoever is in this field, I think this is good for us. We will help. This will help getting back to office.
Yeah, for sure, Emmanuel, and I'm glad that you spoke about security, because I know that was one of the points that John made there in one of his final comments, and I know that that's something that we're always striving to achieve and to make better, and especially with the remote workforces working from anywhere, security is a huge focus, not just for ourselves, but many of our customers are pushing us that way. So gentlemen, thank you again. It's been a wonderful new year, but before we finish, I want to just put one final thing out there and ask you for any final thoughts. Is there something that I didn't ask that you'd like to point out? Is there anything that you'd like to share that would be useful, helpful, or even just fun? I'm leaving this open to you, John, then Joe and Emmanuel. Final thoughts.
One of my final thoughts is, just want to say thank you for the partnership. It's over the past, 4+ years as we've matured it from, as simply an extension of the hardware and replacement of an operating system, now to giving us the flexibility to manage devices anywhere at any time. It's been exceptional, and I want to actually say thanks to both you and Emmanuel for giving us the opportunity to actually partner at that level. It's been great for the two organizations.
Thanks, John.
And to add on to that, there's one feature of the platform that I'd like to highlight. I like to call it a modular solution, right? From the management down to the endpoint. We take that modular approach and we add features to our desktop. We remove features. We essentially drive value at that level. For whatever use case we have, we're able to essentially create a management group and create a profile for whatever we want the device to be presented to a user as. Given the nature of what we do and the fact that we have to be flexible to meet the needs of all the different customers that John highlighted in the beginning of this session, every use case is a little bit different, and this flexibility is critical to us. So that's one of the major takeaways that I have from the partnership, is that we're always able to add features to the platform as needed.
Thanks, Joe. Emmanuel, any final thoughts?
Yeah, thank you very much for the partnership. Thank you very much for being our customer and partner. We obviously like listening to what you have to say. We like listening to our customers. And personally, I said in my introduction, I'm a software engineer. The best opportunities indeed come from listening. Sometimes it's really like you listen to a customer speaking. And we had these moments together. You're really like, wow, of course, then you think, why didn't I come to think about this myself? But it's really like, wow, this is great. This needs to get into our product. The sooner the better. And this is the best sign of a fruitful partnership if you have these moments together. So thank you very much.
Thank you again for your time. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Hernan. Thanks, Emmanuel.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys.
Bye-bye.